Hello, everyone. If you can hear me, can you type a Y into the chat box, please? Thank you, Olga, Sarah, Sabrina, Ann, Raquel, Aaron, Adam. Great. Glad to hear. All right, I'm going to turn this down and we're going to get started here in a few seconds. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2022-23 grant setup webinar. Excuse me. Oh, my gosh. Welcome, everyone, to the 2022-23 grant startup webinar for awarded or scheduled to be awarded subgrantees. For today's presentation, we'll be using everyone's favorite meeting platform, Zoom, where you can find the meeting controls at the bottom of your screen. We'll be using the chat box quite a bit today, which you can find in the meeting controls. And lastly, we recommend closing all other windows and applications for best performance. And to keep the presentation moving, we'll not be stopping for questions, but we'll be collecting and answering them in the chat box. I want to thank the Director for AmeriCorps Programming, David Weatherly, who will be fielding those questions as I present. At all times, you're also always welcome to send written questions to us directly at the following email addresses. If you have any fiscal related questions, I'll take that. David can field all program questions. And of course, you're always welcome to reach out to the program's designated portfolio or fiscal manager contact at the program. For those of you who don't know me, I am Matt Fisher, Vice President for AmeriCorps at YouthBuild USA. My pronouns are he and him. And the following agenda is what we plan to cover in the next 40 minutes or so. I first want to set the stage as to how this is the start of a new grant year and 3-year AmeriCorps project period for the YouthBuild USA AmeriCorps partnership. Then I'm going to provide an overview of the AmeriCorps grant startup next steps on both the program and fiscal sides of the house. And we'll end with some important reminders that we all need to be mindful of as AmeriCorps grant managers as we reset for a new year. Now, the purpose of the Grant Startup and Next Steps webinar agenda is really to have all awarded or scheduled to be awarded subgrantees be aware of what needs to happen between now and when the program wants to enroll members under the 22-23 grant year. We sent an email to each subgrantee regarding Grant Startup Next Steps. This webinar is going to take the time to walk us through that communication and provide additional context so we can all be on the same page and it helps us start strong in our implementation of grant requirements. In addition, we hope this presentation helps all to understand the energy and commitment that is needed to properly implement grant requirements, revisiting some of our many collective responsibilities as grant managers and administrators to manage this work. And while this presentation will be focused on those grants, many administrative tasks, I also want us not to lose sight of why we accept and administer this resource. We really do it so individuals like the following: Christopher Nichols at Job Points YouthBuild in Columbia, Missouri, who I believe is representative of the thousands of young people who come through YouthBuild AmeriCorps program doors, can have a meaningful, impactful, and transformative YouthBuild AmeriCorps member experience that positively impacts them for the rest of their lives. I ask all of you, so are you ready? If you're ready, give me a Y in the chat box, just so you know you're ready. Great. Thank you, Kathy, Kara. Oh, they're happy. They're coming in. Thanks, Gregory, Leah, Mindy. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being ready. I have another question for the group, and that is, using the chat box, please type the letter that best corresponds to your role at the program. Are you the program director or manager, fiscal staff person, executive director or parent organization leader, AmeriCorps coordinator, or other? All right. Thanks for throwing that in. I really appreciate it. Lots of different individuals, different roles, all equally important in overseeing, managing, and implementing this work. My next question for the group is, on a scale of 1 to 10, next year is going to be a what? What do you think next year is going to be on a scale of 1 to 10? A 10. We're going big. Oh, a 10. I hope it's a 10. We could all use a 10, couldn't we? Yes. It's got to be a 10. Let's hope that it is a 10. Now, there's one last question I have for you all, and this is a polling question. Let me go to the slide. We want to take attendance so we know who attended today's presentation. I'm going to throw it into the chat box. Let's see. You're going to provide your first and last name, your program name, and your position title. You don't have, let's see, hopefully you've got the poll. You can see that. If you could see the poll, type a Y into the chat box. And we'll just take a minute. If you could fill that out, that would be great. Oh, thank you. All right, Aaron, I can't see everything going on. So many windows open. And if you would, please take a moment to add that information. First and last name, YouthBuild program name, and position title. All right, they're coming in. Responses are coming. We're just going to log them because we want to make sure everyone who registered gets a link to this, and we'll also post it on our website as well as other places. All right, add it to the polling feature, please. Thank you. All right, we have 79 participants. We got 44 responses, 45, 48, 15, 49, 50. One more minute. We're going to take one more minute. All right, they're coming in. I really appreciate it. This helps us to make sure we got everyone accounted for in our grant records. Really appreciate it. 57. All right. I think maybe I could still present, and it comes up there. All right. All right, hopefully you can see the next slide. All right. If you are a program that was previously funded under our 2019-22 project period, year three's enrollment period is coming to an end in about a month on August 14th, 2022. And many of you are working diligently to fill slots and enroll members under the 21-22 grant year before this deadline. Once members are enrolled, they'll have 1 year to complete their service requirements, and those programs will continue to support them and spend down funds while those members remain in service. So I think that is a lot of programs on this call. You either have active members or currently enrolling more members under the 21-22 umbrella. With year three of the 1922 AmeriCorps enrollment period nearing the end, YouthBuild USA went through a required recompete application process with AmeriCorps this past December. We had to remake our case as to why AmeriCorps should continue to invest in YouthBuild Opportunity Youth Service members and in the programs that support them. Luckily, our case was positively received, and YouthBuild USA was awarded year one funding for the 22-25 project period. Does anyone know on the line using the chat box if you know the total in year one funding that YouthBuild USA received? If you know it, add it to the chat box. I don't know if we broadcasted this out in our newsletter. YouthBuild USA did make a formal announcement. How much did we receive? Any guesses? No guesses? All right, people are still adding in. Well, let me get to it. 10.5. I appreciate it, David. Close. That's close. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take that 10.5. All right, it's coming in. And that is correct. $10.9 million was awarded by AmeriCorps to YouthBuild USA that will support approximately 63 YouthBuild programs and over 2,300 members in service to their community. This is an increase of approximately $2 million over last period's award. And what this money supports is at least 750,000 hours of service across a network that will help to address unmet community needs. And the main community need that is being tracked and documented under AmeriCorps' grant is the development or repair of over 275 units of affordable housing, making neighborhoods and communities safer. In addition to this resource that's being provided, and in return for their service, AmeriCorps is also making available over $4 million in education awards that are to be earned for the completion of service requirements, which can be used at any time by the young people at your program 7 years after the completion of their service term. So that's money for post-secondary education and job training opportunities. If you are new to the YouthBuild AmeriCorps partnership, we use the following formula to explain it in the most simplest of terms. To me, the partnership's about taking the fundamental core element of the program model, which is service to others and the community, and turning up the volume on that service component at your YouthBuild program. When you turn up the volume, the impact of the YouthBuild service experience is profound, not just on the member, but also on the program and community as well. As a benefit and reward for their service, members are able to earn an education award that can support them walking through new doors of opportunity via post-secondary education and job training opportunities. Thank you to all of you for your hard work and dedication administering AmeriCorps' many great requirements at your YouthBuild grant requirements at your YouthBuild program while supporting youth to have an impactful and transformative member service experience. AmeriCorps' reinvestment is a testament to that hard work and the network's collective efforts last year and over the last, 20, 25 years. And I want to extend a warm welcome to 3 new YouthBuild USA affiliates who are joining the partnership during the 22-23 grant year. YouthBuild San Antonio, YouthBuild Indy, and Garfield Jubilee YouthBuild are joining the partnership network. As new subgrantees, I want you to, please forgive me as today's presentation may contain many YouthBuild AmeriCorps specific concepts and lingo that might not make complete sense. I know that you'll be connecting with our new Associate Director of Program Development, Matt Clerico, next week to debrief this presentation and to put a plan in place to set up the program for success. In late June, we sent a lengthy email to each subgrantee regarding 22-23 grant startup next steps that need to be accomplished in order for members to be enrolled and for grant funds to be expended. We have a dedicated grant startup webpage, which has a listing of important dates, steps, and documents that are part of this annual grant startup process. David just put a link in the chat box. We recommend you clicking that link and bookmarking it in your web browser. And while I'll be touching on some important policy-related items, it's always best to check out source information by visiting our program manuals and guides on our website. There's a link to those guides. We're actually in the process of updating each of these. I would say 98% of the information is correct. There might be a few things that will require some revisions, and of course, we'll send out an email once they've been updated. But if you don't have these or haven't accessed, we recommend you do that. And in fact, my recommendation to any individual who is new to overseeing or managing this at the site level is to become familiar with YouthBuild AmeriCorps' general policies and procedures and reading this as your starting point. And so we have that link directly in there. You can download that from the chat right now. Lastly, this AmeriCorps grant is a federal resource subject not just to YouthBuild USA's expectations, but more importantly to the federal rules and regulations as outlined in AmeriCorps' grant terms and conditions. This information is updated annually and features many of the rules and regulations that YouthBuild USA provides training on. It's YouthBuild USA and every subgrantee's responsibility to be in compliance with these requirements. And in fact, when we send out information, we often reference these, but we don't take the time to read them. So anyone new to this work should read that, and everyone should read them on an annual basis. So there are 3 main things that we plan to discuss regarding our grant startup next steps. I want to talk about the management conference that's coming up. Then we'll turn to financial opening tasks that the program needs to administer. And then we're going to look at program opening tasks. So thing 1 was about the management conference. August 8th through August 10th is the 2022-23 virtual YouthBuild AmeriCorps Management Conference. This is a required training for all AmeriCorps subgrantees and their program and fiscal staff responsible for overseeing, managing, or supporting the work. This will be our 3rd virtual management conference, and we guarantee it will be the 3rd best virtual YouthBuild AmeriCorps management conference ever. The annual conference is a time when we come together as a network to talk about our collective good work and examine our program pyramids of purpose. This pyramid was developed by Director of AmeriCorps Programs, David Weatherly, and it provides a structure for sound YouthBuild AmeriCorps program implementation and examination. As we enter into a whole new 3-year project period and leave behind us quite a few crazy years of dealing with the impacts, both directly and indirectly, of COVID, we really want to make sure every program is starting off with the knowledge and dedicated capacity needed to successfully implement grant requirements on both the programmatic and fiscal side of the house. So our theme for this summer's conference is starting strong. We will be revisiting all of those essential foundation elements needed for a strong AmeriCorps partnership and calling on experienced programs to share their best systems and practices managing this work so newer programs can learn the basics and implement those learned techniques. From August 8th to 10th, there'll be 2 main sessions each day, and we're facilitating both a separate program track and a fiscal track during the conference. Also, the week prior on August 4th, if you or a member of your team is new to the partnership, we invite you to attend our welcome session to learn the history and context around all of this work that will allow you to better understand some of the language and references that will be made during the main conference. So you might be asking who should attend. Once again, this is open to any staff responsible for overseeing, managing, and supporting the partnership at the program. So you'll see some of the people that are there, and we invite any and all at the program who want to learn more about this, even if they're not directly involved within its management. Now, registration has opened. There is a link that is available via the MyYB webpage. You can click on that, and we ask that you register after today's webinar. And lastly, in talking about conferences, while you are all expected to attend this required virtual management conference training, the AmeriCorps team at YouthBuild USA is looking ahead to January of 2023, where we plan to host an optional in-person training for interested subgrantee staff. January's content is still being discussed here, but we do know that it will intentionally focus on aspects of the YouthBuild AmeriCorps partnership that have less to do with paperwork and compliance and more to do with program culture and member experience. There's still quite a bit that we need to think through here at YouthBuild USA, and we'll be in touch more in the fall with more information. All right, so question for the group using the chat box: when does the conference registration open? Is it today, August 3rd, August 4th, or tomorrow, July 13th? Who's paying attention? B, oh, lots of B's today. All right, that's right. You're paying attention. That's correct. The correct answer is today. Registration is open. My next recap question: who should attend the conference? Program staff, fiscal staff responsible for implementation or oversight, anyone at the program, all of the above? Who should attend? A, B, C, D, E, or F? Thank you, Katie, Heather, Crystal, Olga. Yes, all of the above. Because of the virtual format, it does provide lots of opportunity to bring anyone at your program to our training, and we encourage you to invite any and all members to attend. But most importantly, don't lose sight. We do want those key managers who are responsible for the implementation of program and fiscal requirements. All right, so that is about our management conference. That was thing 1. If you have questions, write them in the chat box. David will try to answer them as we move along, or we will follow through after the presentation. All right, so let's move on to thing 2, which is talking about our financial opening steps. So a couple of things is we do have a number of resources related to financial requirements. Once again, if you're a fiscal person, there is a link in the chat box. Recommend you click that, bookmark it. Here you can find policies, instructions, templates, and guidance related to YouthBuild AmeriCorps fiscal management requirements. Now, regarding grant startup, there's probably two or three different things that we need you all to do. If your program received a finalized subgrant award for next year, there's a handful of programs who are still closing out enrollment for this year. If you have received that formal grant award notification with your slots and money, a draft budget template is available in the program's Dropbox folder. So you can go in there and you can find that. Once everyone else who didn't receive a final award, once the enrollment window closes and any outstanding program or fiscal issues are resolved, we will make that budget template available to you all. But you can find that in Dropbox. And on the budget template, there's a lot of different information. You'll find links to the budget instructions, the video budget tutorial that walks you through all the different subsections. And of course, your YouthBuild AmeriCorps Fiscal Manager is an available resource for helping you to complete the budget. Now, completing a budget, if you've never done it before, since we have some new folks on here, we recommend that you go through the management conference fiscal track first. You'll get a broad, big picture understanding of all the moving pieces. We'll actually concentrate and talk a little bit about creating a budget for your YouthBuild AmeriCorps grants. All of that information, I think, will help inform you all in building a good budget for the next year. Those of you who are familiar with the process, you're welcome to start that. What we're looking to do is we're going to start reviewing budgets after the management conference, and we'll be working with programs to submit a draft budget no later than September 30th, 2022. Now, since we're talking about subgrants budgets, I want to reiterate that Match is returning. Match is back into the network. It must be included in the draft budget. It must be secured at the program. And of course, it's managed using the same principles and requirements of AmeriCorps funds. So a reminder about that, and we'll talk a little bit about that during our conference. I also want to make a comment. I want to thank everyone who provided public comment to AmeriCorps about match requirements. We continue to monitor public comments, their process closely to see if it results in any policy or procedural changes at AmeriCorps. As of yet, not currently, but if it does, you'll be all the first to know. In the meantime, we need to plan to budget match in the budget. It must be secured and must be managed appropriately. Now, the grant startup email sent to programs also discusses the required completion of an annual financial management survey. The survey is to be downloaded, completed, and uploaded to the program's financial management survey folder in Dropbox, along with any requested policies and procedural documents. This survey is a required grant startup process that collects audit-related information and helps us at YouthBuild USA understand fiscal policies and procedures. We ask that you please complete this at the program's earliest convenience, upload to Dropbox, and alert the program's FM when that is ready. Now, when it comes to drafting a budget, I want to close things out with a few reminders. I think all of you know this, but money follows the members. That's a general rule of thumb. So you want money to be budgeted to start flowing 30 days prior to the first 22-23 member enrollment. Money can be expended until 30 days after the final members are exited. So you got to forecast when members start and when they'll be exiting. Supplies and other tangible goods are allowable at any point during that period. And lastly, while most of the presentation's content is about the new grant year, most programs on this call are managing previously awarded YouthBuild AmeriCorps grants. As a reminder, YouthBuild USA doesn't permit subgrantees having more than 2 open subgrants at any time. So please remember, before the 22-23 grant can officially open and members be enrolled, the program's 2020-21 grant needs to be closed out, and the program's 21-22 grant should be moving forward with its reimbursement requests. I think most programs know where they stand with their reimbursements, but I just want to reiterate that fact regarding open grants and the new year. All right, so a couple recap questions for the group. When is my draft 2022-23 budget due? When I get to it, no later than September 30th, August 15th, or at the conference. What is the correct answer? We're getting a lot of B's. Thank you, Amy, Joanna, Mindy, Rodney, Timothy. All right, you're paying attention. Thank you, Ruben, Laura. All right, yes, no later than September 30th. That's when we want you to submit your draft budget. All right, next recap question. When is the financial management survey due? No later than September 30th. When I get to it, may the 4th be with you. Time is a flat circle. I can tell these are Brandon's answers. Yes, we're looking for A. I appreciate everyone's response in the chat. Thank you, Karen, Wakwell, Amy. That's right, no later than September 30th. So budget financial management survey, we want to get that information. And we also want you to submit your latest independent audit. You would have gotten a date of what audit we have on file. We want to make sure we have the latest completed annual audit on file at YouthBuild USA. One more question. When is the deadline to close out grant year 2020-21? February 31st. When I get to it, when the pumpkin spice latte becomes available, and no later than September 30th. That's right. We're looking for answer D, although answer C, I think pumpkin spice latte keeps coming out earlier and earlier, might be in sync with the September 30th deadline. So we would have taken answer C. All right. So that's thing number 2. If you have questions regarding those financial grant startup next steps, please write them in the chat box. David will do his best to field those or will respond after the presentation. So let's talk about thing 3, and that's really our programmatic opening tasks. So 4 things that we're going to walk you through. Let's go through these individually. The first is programs need to finalize primary service tracks. YouthBuild USA's approved grant with AmeriCorps states that all programs will be engaged in at least the construction of affordable housing, and that some programs may have members involved in other primary service activities, such as community health and wellness, bridging the digital divide, conservation of public lands and parks, community recycling, disaster response and relief, and addressing food insecurity through culinary arts or other food services. Now, YouthBuild USA needs to review and approve all primary service tracks at a program to ensure that there is a clear service element to it that helps address an unmet community need. We know that some programs have these as vocational tracks, and sometimes a vocational track does not necessarily align or sync up perfectly as a service track. So YouthBuild USA will go through a review process to ensure those things are in place and work with the program if they are not to eventually get there. So the grant startup email that was sent to programs has the service tracks the program is approved to do. If you have a track that that the program wants to have included that was not listed, then that program needs to work with their portfolio manager here at YouthBuild USA during the grant startup process to have that included and or reviewed or evaluated. So finalize the primary service tracks at your program. The second thing is that we want programs to submit annual member position descriptions. Each year, subgrantees are required to submit them for every position type at your program at grant startup. The position description must reflect changes to the grant year, including grant award dollar amounts. This is to ensure that member position activities meet AmeriCorps standards. If for any reason during the service terms, members cannot engage in the activities listed in the position description, and you add different ones or want to, you really need to be in contact with your portfolio manager. So programmatic changes require approval. This is one way that we approve the activities that fall under a position stream at the program. Members should not engage in or count as AmeriCorps service any activities that are not referenced in the position description. So we have a bunch of templates that's up on our webpage. We'll look to provide you a link to that, and you can download those templates and start customizing them to your program's actual activities at the program in line with 22-23 grant requirements. So that's number 2, position descriptions. Now, number 3 is we want to make sure programs complete AmeriCorps' required national service criminal history check annual training. All programs, all subgrantees are required to have at least one staff member complete this annual e-course training in It's called Litmos. It's a education training platform. Upon completion of the annual training, subgrantees are required to have an unexpired certificate on file at YouthBuild USA throughout the grant cycle. So everyone's completing this at different times, so the expiration will vary from site to site, but you must have an active one on file. So if you're new to this work, you can complete this training and submit the certificate to the program's designated portfolio manager. Here at YouthBuild USA, we'll ensure that every program has an active certificate on file. If you're new to this process, actually, it's a good course to go through. The National Service Criminal History Check is quite a process. And so this provides some great foundational baseline information as to why it needs to be done and some of the different steps that are involved with this. So if you are unsure if your certificate is valid, we ask that you please reach out to our portfolio manager and we'll provide that information to you. So that is step number 3. Lastly, once steps 1 through 3 have been completed and confirmed, and there are no outstanding issues with previously awarded grants, the program will receive a new subgrantee agreement for the 2022-23 award period that will need to be signed by the program's or parent org's president, CEO, or executive director or equivalent, and by signatories at YouthBuild USA. The subgrantee agreement goes over the legal requirements that are part of managing this federal resource. We're going to throw a link in the chat. This is the template for 22-23. It's very similar to the ones from previous years, but it's worth a read if you are someone who provides oversight, because obviously we need to ensure that these things are happening. And of course, if they are not, they're subject to different penalties administered by AmeriCorps or YouthBuild USA. So that's what needs to happen, those 4 steps. And I just want to send a reminder, hopefully, if you're a program that enrolls early in 22-23 and you want us to prioritize getting the agreements executed, please make sure that your portfolio manager is aware. I know for a lot of our programs, we collected that information during June conference call week, but it doesn't hurt to let your portfolio managers know. All right, a couple recap questions for program operating startup next steps. The first one is, when should I submit my program's 22-23 member position descriptions? In 2023, next year, before I plan to enroll members under the grant year, or today? What would be the right answer? What do you think? Add it to the chat box, A, B, C, or D. I know this one's a little tricky. All right, Sandy, Joanna, Katie. Yes, we are looking for letter. Yes, Mac. C, although you can submit them today if you would like. Really, by the time you want to enroll members, we need to have position descriptions on file. So lots of different steps. Make sure those are updated. All right. So once these 3 steps are completed, we will prepare to have a subgrantee agreement sent to the program. Once that subgrantee agreement is signed and executed by all parties, then we can make slots available to the program for enrollment. So for program operating startup next steps. Looks like I have another recap question. Let's see. It says, what must happen before my subgrantee agreement is sent to the program? Must finalize primary service tracks with portfolio manager, verify designated signatory, submit position descriptions, or D, all of the above. All right. Thanks for playing along, Karen, Kara, Jessica, Olga, Dora. Yes. Dion, Timothy, yes, we're looking for D, all of the above. That's correct. Next question. What happens after my subgrantee agreement is signed by all parties? Everyone does a happy dance. You get a free box of cookies, or C, slots are allocated in the AmeriCorps portal. Yes, you're paying attention. That's correct. Slots are allocated in the portal for AmeriCorps member enrollment. All right. So those are our main program grant opening task questions. Once again, new programs, Matt Clerico will be working with you to make sure all of this makes sense and then walk you through it through one step at a time, because it can be overwhelming. If you have questions, write them in the chat box and we'll do our best to field them, or we'll follow up with a response via email. All right, so those are the 3 things we wanted to discuss regarding grant startup next steps. And I want to present a few reminders regarding this AmeriCorps partnership. So here they are. And a question to the group, let's see, we're going to pull out some of your recall. When it comes to national service criminal history checks, who needs one? Members, staff and grant covered positions, members and staff and grant covered positions, or members, volunteers, and staff and grant covered positions? Matt, this is a tricky one. What is it? C or D? A lot of C's and some D's. Well, really, under AmeriCorps requirements, it's members and staff and grant covered positions. Volunteers you are not obligated to do a criminal history background check, although you can have a policy in place to do that. And I want to point out, if you have staff that are new to the program, who you anticipate either supporting some of their salary or all of their salary by the new grant, AmeriCorps grant, they first need to have a compliant national service criminal history check on file at the program. In fact, we have a process at YouthBuild USA where we review that documentation and issue a clearance date to ensure that funds are not reimbursed for a staff person or individual before that check is deemed compliant. So if you anticipate having new staff joining the program or budget, we recommend starting that check process now. To conduct NSCHCs, YouthBuild AmeriCorps subgrantees are required to use AmeriCorps approved vendors TruScreen and FieldPrint. TruScreen runs and documents sex offender registry searches as required by AmeriCorps, as well as state of residence and state of work criminal record searches. And FieldPrint, this vendor runs fingerprint-based FBI checks. So these are the vendors that run this 3-part, 4 or 5-step criminal history check. YouthBuild USA will continue to provide circumstantial waivers exempting a program from the required use of TruScreen and or FieldPrint for any part of a program's NSCHC process. If the program can demonstrate significant barriers to utilizing any of these vendors, demonstrate that the program's process for conducting NSCHCs and written procedures meets AmeriCorps requirements, and that the program has demonstrated past compliance with NSCHC requirements. So, required use of vendors. We do provide some waivers under very limited circumstantial under limited circumstances, as outlined here on this slide. And we'll be reaching out to a few of the programs who had waivers in the past to see if this is something they wish to request next year. So what must an AmeriCorps member wear every day they are serving, earning AmeriTime? Pants, a hat, the AmeriCorps logo, or D, the AmeriCorps logo and pants. What must they wear? C or D? We are looking for AmeriCorps logo and pants. That's right. They must be fully clothed with the AmeriCorps logo. And this question is reflect that, AmeriCorps requires that programs and its subgrantees promote the visibility of AmeriCorps national service movement by having members display the AmeriCorps logo while they are in service. Now, YouthBuild USA provides programs with at least one t-shirt for all members. Programs should also budget for and supply AmeriCorps member service gear where the AmeriCorps logo is also displayed. And programs should look at creative ways to make the logo available to young people while they're in service. So we've seen programs who have stickers on helmets, vests with the AmeriCorps logo. I think from my standpoint, it's really important that we recognize the AmeriCorps brand and celebrate the AmeriCorps brand and really fall into compliance with AmeriCorps' requirements. During the photo contest, we get hundreds of amazing photos of young people in service where the AmeriCorps logo is clearly visible, but we do get a handful of photos where it's clearly a member's having a wonderful service experience, but the AmeriCorps logo is nowhere to be found. And that is essentially out of compliance with AmeriCorps requirements. So please make a concentrated effort to figure out how to have members wear the AmeriCorps logo on a daily basis while in service. Next question. What must happen at the beginning of an AmeriCorps member service term? A, mental toughness. B, a singing competition. C, an AmeriCorps member orientation, or D, reciting of the AmeriCorps pledge. Let's see what people have. Aaron said C, Dion C. That's right. So we're actually, I didn't. I got ahead of me. Hold on. I don't have the right one, but we're looking for an AmeriCorps member orientation. So members need to complete a member orientation. The things that should be covered at the minimum is a review of the position description, the rights and responsibilities as an AmeriCorps member, what AmeriCorps is, and the benefits of AmeriCorps regarding the education award and some of the other benefits that AmeriCorps members received as outlined in the member service agreement. All programs should be doing that. And we know some programs do some really creative ways. They spend a half or full day maybe doing a service project related to AmeriCorps during part of their mental toughness. All right, question for the group. This is actually just enter it into the chat box. What is the name given to the procedure that to resolve disputes between two parties? Write the answer in the chat box. Ooh, Heather Hurd. Ciao, Joanna. That's right. If you see it, Kara, wow. That's right. We are looking for grievance procedures. That's right. So this is an AmeriCorps requirement. All programs should have this. You must establish a grievance procedure for members who believe that they have been unfairly released from the program and for other grievances filed by either members, staff, volunteers, or other interested parties. This grievance procedure must be part of the service agreement and signed off on by the member. The procedure must include an opportunity for a hearing and binding arbitration within statutory deadlines. So we have standard language within the member service agreement, but programs in general should have a grievance procedure at their program as an AmeriCorps subgrantee. And oftentimes, every once in a while, YouthBuild USA gets a call about an organization or entity that may have a dispute with a YouthBuild AmeriCorps program. And the first thing that we'll point to is the program's grievance procedure. And so we'll use that as a template for bringing this to resolution. And so have your grievance procedures ready. Make sure members are aware of it as well as the staff. All right, next recap question. What do the following letters stand for? B, U, R, P. The acronym BURP from, I think, given to us, I know from our friends at Operation Fresh Start in Madison, a great way to remember prohibited activities. Members don't burp. So it's business, union, religious, political activities. That's right. A great way that members should memorize that AmeriCorps members don't burp. So this is during AmeriCorps time. Burp. Let's see. Prohibited activities. So we have what is known as AmeriCorps prohibited activities. I'm going to give you a slide. Here's the actual long list of the prohibited activities. So members and staff cannot do this on AmeriCorps time while wearing the AmeriCorps logo. So they can do these things as independent citizens. However, it's really important that there's a separation as an AmeriCorps member from these activities. Attempting to influence legislation, organizing or engaging in protests, boycotts, or strikes, assisting, promoting, or deterring union organizing, engaging in partisan political activities. And I do want to remind everyone, it's an election year, so we need to pay extra attention to this. Provide referrals for abortion, displacing, or supplanting staff. Another reminder, you almost say burps, S for supplanting staff. So these are the prohibited activities. Those of you who've been doing this work for a long time have systems in place to ensure that members don't engage in this, but we need to remind ourselves every year about its importance and making sure those systems remain in place. All right. If you have questions about what was just covered, put them into the chat box. We'll field them as we come to a close here, because those are our grant startup next steps, both looking at program and fiscal steps. We went through some of our key important reminders as grant managers. YouthBuild AmeriCorps Management Conference, don't forget to register. The financial survey and draft budgets, we're looking for them to be completed no later by September 30th. If you plan to enroll members early and you are in compliance and have no outstanding issues with past grants, please let your portfolio manager know, and we'll make an effort to get everything in order at the start of our enrollment period, which opens on August 15th for the 22-23 grant year. If you're watching this recording, don't forget, email us so we can update our participation records. And we're looking forward to you joining us on August 8th through the 10th at the YouthBuild AmeriCorps Management Conference. We've got a lot of great key content that we're going to go over. And of course, we get to do our Spirit of Service Member Awards presentation. Wow, we had so many great entries this year, and we look forward to announcing this year's Full-Time Member of the Year, Vista Member of the Year, Alum of the Year, as well as our YouthBuild AmeriCorps Member of the Year. This was a caption from our social media campaign from last year's, and a great closing reminder as to what AmeriCorps service does for the young people and the program who support them in their communities. Thank you, everybody, for your time. You can hang out. If you have questions, feel free to add them into the chat box, and we'll see you next time. Thank you again. Take care. Thanks, Sabrina. Thanks, David. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Ina. Thank you, Imelda.